What's up, guys? Welcome back to Super Creepy Fridays. This is number 3. If you don't know what Super Creepy Fridays are and you're new to the channel, it's where once a week we react to scary animated and non-animated films. This time around, it's going to be 3 animated films, so we got no real films this time. But so let's go ahead and get into it. And our first one is The Bridge by Llama Arts. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hopefully I can get a good jump scare out of one of these videos, and let's see what happens. Gonna get nice and comfortable.
So this story takes place when I was about 16 years old. At my school, I played for the volleyball team, and every year we would go to a camp and do volunteer work for this guy. The camp was in the middle of nowhere. When we got to the camp, we immediately started to work until 8 p.m. This was around October, so it was already dark at 8. My 2 friends and I were sitting around the fire, trying to figure out something we could do so we weren't so bored. We heard that there was a small river down the hill from the camp, and we thought we could check it out. The problem was that it was some guy's property, and the owner of the camp told us to not disturb him since the guy was a little strange. We weren't really supposed to leave the camp, but being 16 years old, we loved breaking the rules. We walked about 10 minutes from the camp and finally reached the river. It was bigger than we expected, and there was a large wooden bridge that crossed it. The bridge was about 20 feet long and was big enough to let a truck go over it. My 2 friends and I decided to go under the bridge and check it out. As we were walking by the shoreline, we saw 2 headlights off in the distance moving towards the bridge, so we bolted underneath it and hid. We then heard the truck roll over our heads and to the other side. My friends and I chilled there for a while, just talking and throwing rocks in the water. It was about 8:30 at this time, and now it was pretty much pitch black.
Getting dark.
That's when we started to hear a slow rumble in the distance. The same truck had come back, and this time it was moving much slower. We stayed put under the bridge, stifling our laughter. Eventually, the truck moved over the bridge, but rather than going over to the other side, the truck stopped right on top of us.
Ooh.
The only thing you could hear was the rushing water and the hum of the engine. Then, the door of the truck swung open, and out came a loud thump on top of the bridge. Then we heard a loud scream saying, "I know you're out there! I'm gonna find you!" I looked at my friends and they were both shaking in fear. This must have been the crazy property owner, and he seemed pissed that we were on his land. He started screaming and saying he was gonna hurt us if he finds us.
Oh boy.
We could see that he had a flashlight and he was swinging it around looking for us. We heard loud thumps as he walked around a little bit, calling out for us, and thank God he never went under the bridge. Eventually, it went silent, and it sounded as if he went back into his truck. I was too terrified to move. We sat there for about 10 minutes, and then my one friend, who we'll call Trevor, whispered in my ear, saying that we have to go. I gave him a quick nod, and in slow motion, we moved out from under the bridge. We started to army crawl on the shoreline of the river, and I remember looking behind me to see the top of the bridge. I saw a white Ford F-150. In the driver's seat was the man, staring right at me with a sinister smile, and he even gave me a little wave. At that moment, I screamed and ran. My friends saw me run and took off after me. I could hear screaming from behind us. I took a quick glance behind me and saw that he was chasing after us, and I couldn't
Look at
make
his
out the
mouth.
object in his hand, but it seems to be a weapon of some sort.
Holy crap.
We ran into the forest and ducked behind a bush. It was pitch black in the forest, and we couldn't hear a thing. We sat there for a while, just shaking. The man never walked by us, and we never heard him. After we gathered our courage, we got up and walked back to camp, got into our tents, and tried to fall asleep. The next morning, we talked to the camp owner about the man that owned the property of the river. The camp owner said that he didn't know much about the man, but he knows that he has some mental problems and he'd been accused of assault. I am so happy that we were able to escape from underneath the bridge. I can't imagine what would have happened if he caught us.
Ooh. That one's pretty short and sweet. That one feels more like just like a short, sweet, creepy one that, like, you know, well, they could actually happen. Well, a lot of these can actually happen, but some of them they're just so eerie. It just seems out of this world. I do like the ones where it shows you like situations that like people have actually been through, stuff like that. Not gonna catch me in no woods, no sir, no ma'am. All right, that was nice. I liked it. The next one is called, let's see, it's called Secret Room, and it's by Wanzi Entertainment. By the way, even though it was already on the screen, I forgot to mention that the first one was called The Bridge by Llama Arts. Or did I forget? I'm not sure. Short memory. Short-term memory is not my strong suit. All right. So the next one, like I said, is called Secret Room, and it's by Wanzi Entertainment. I think I'm saying it right. Wanzi or Wanzi Entertainment. All right, Secret Room. Let's go. Let's go to the next one. Did I click play? I'm throwing. Okay.
It was late in the evening and I was driving on the highway. I was coming back home from my friend's party. I was so tired at that time, so I decided to check in at a hotel near the village. The hotel was not too big, seemed normal, but was kind of creepy. After finishing check-in, I got my key and the room number. My room number was 23. I walked to the hallway. As I was passing by the other doors, I heard a kid's giggling voice from the room number 20, which was located just 2 doors away from my room. I stopped walking. Then I noticed that the door on this room looked different from the others. The door looked very old and it had a big keyhole. And it was big enough to peek inside the room.
Don't do it.
I was actually curious about the inside, so I looked into the room.
Oh no.
And there was a girl who was sitting on the bed with her face down to the floor. I couldn't see her face clearly because her hair was all covered. She was wearing a white dress like the 1990s style, and it looked dirty. I thought it was weird, but soon I just disregarded it.
Why are you peeping
So I headed
in
to my
holes on
room,
little kids?
locked the door, and just passed out. The next morning, I was walking the hallway again. I didn't know why, but I instantly had this feeling that I wanted to look through that keyhole again in room 20. So I stopped in front of the door and looked through the hole. But this time, I couldn't hear any sound and see the girl, though. All I could see was a whole red color. I thought maybe she saw me yesterday, that I was looking through the hole, so she probably covered up the hole with a red cloth or something. I thought that was childish, but cute. So I smiled, stepped back, and headed to the counter. Before leaving, I asked the lady at the counter, "Hey, what's going on in that room 20? Why does the door look different and why that girl stays alone?" She stared at me for a while and then began to talk. "Oh, you mean the room number 20. There used to be a family who checked in that room when this hotel wasn't renovated before. The couple had a daughter and stayed in here for their vacation. But then, they killed their daughter in that room.
What?
And when the cops arrived, the couple killed themselves too. But the weirdest part about it was, after that, lots of our guests told the staff that they saw the same girl who was wandering the hallways. And they all said that the girl's eyes were too red, as just like she was shedding tears of blood."
Okay.
What she told me shocked me. My heart was pounding and I couldn't even speak anything. Then what was that red thing? Was she looking at me through the door, just like I was watching her?
Ooh, that is creepy. That was the creepy one. Okay, that was Secret Room by Wanzi Entertainment. Oof, that was creepy. Imagine seeing something like that and then having someone tell you that that person's been dead for a long time, but you just saw that person. God, man, the chills. Oof, that was good. All right, this last one is Creepy Night at the Office, and it's by Animated Horror Flicks. Shout out, yes sir. All right, let's go ahead and get into this one.
This creepy story happened to me about 6 months ago while I was still working at my previous job, and I thought I would share it while it still remains fresh in my mind. So I was at the office one day. I was working late and the rest of my co-workers were heading out to share a taxi home, so I was going to be the only one left in the building since our boss hadn't come into work for the past few days. I thought it was an interesting coincidence that he stopped showing up on Valentine's Day, but no one really knew for sure if he was seeing anyone. Although he had been coming into work on his motorcycle a lot more often lately, whatever that was supposed to mean. I didn't really care too much about all the gossip, but I was getting kind of tired of the whole thing since it seemed it was all anyone could talk about at the time. The strong scent of perfume in the office and the mystery gift on his desk also had everyone talking. It was actually pretty cool not having the boss around at first, but unfortunately, the security alarm had started acting up and I needed his signature to approve the cost to call someone to fix it. Also, the key to the supply room went missing since he left, and he hadn't returned any of my messages about that or the alarm. Which was surprising because he was the kind of person that would generally take things very seriously. Just as my colleagues were about to leave the building, they asked if there was anyone waiting up for me because there was someone sitting inside a car in the parking lot outside. They seemed genuinely unnerved when I told them that I wasn't expecting anyone, and they all decided to quietly leave together and asked me to be careful. What was really strange is that whoever it was had no business being there, but I initially brushed it off and thought the car would be gone by the time I got around to observing the parking lot for myself. About half an hour later, I received a message on my phone from Josh, one of my co-workers from earlier. Truth be told, I was so focused on my work, I had completely forgotten about the matter. I didn't respond to his message right away, but eventually I did find an excuse to pass in front of my boss's office overlooking the parking lot. I went into his office and peeked through the window. As I slowly pulled down the blinds, I was surprised to see someone still waiting in the parking lot.
That's so creepy.
This was highly unusual, and it kind of creeped me out since the car was parked so close to mine. I couldn't really make out who it was, but as I looked closer I could see it was definitely a man smoking a cigarette. There was nothing familiar about him, and I didn't recognize the car. Since I was the only person at the office, I couldn't shake this uncanny feeling that he really was waiting up for me for some reason, and that it would be impossible to get to my car without him seeing me. I quickly returned to my desk and grabbed my phone so I could take a photo and confirm with Josh that it was the same car from before. While I waited for Josh to respond, the gift on the desk suddenly caught my eye. I thought that perhaps it was a perfume, which would explain the strong scent inside the office lately, but I was also curious to know if it really was a Valentine's gift and why it was still on his desk. It seemed strange to leave it at the office. As I slowly opened the box, I was surprised to see a passport inside.
The man's gone.
Suddenly I received a new message on my phone. I was initially confused by his response, but when I looked closely at the photo again, I could see that the car was empty. I was so quick to take the photo I hadn't even noticed. I immediately took another peek through the window. The car was still there, but with no one inside. It seemed so strange to abandon your car in the middle of the night, especially on a cold February night. It was getting late and I still had a few more hours of work to catch up on, so I decided to get back to it, hoping the car would be gone by the time I finished up. A few hours later, I got a little curious as to why Josh hadn't followed up with any other messages, which is when I realized that the battery on my phone was dead. I was too tired to stick around to recharge my phone at the office, so I closed up and cautiously descended into the parking lot. As I left the building, I felt a sudden chill, but I didn't know if it was from the cold air or from seeing the same old car still parked and abandoned outside. A couple of things started running through my head at that point, like maybe he had too much to drink and decided to walk home, or the car was extremely low on gas, but deep down I had a bad feeling. As I approached the abandoned car, I could see cigarette butts scattered all over the ground, everywhere, suggesting that he had been waiting for a lot longer than I thought. It seemed very bizarre to just take off after waiting for so long. I proceeded to my car and took one final look back at the office, which suddenly reminded me of the passport on the desk that I had completely forgotten to place back inside the box after getting distracted by my phone.
Gotta go back.
Knowing that my boss would totally flip out if he found out that someone had been snooping around his office, I reluctantly headed back into the building, since I had already worked so late and I really didn't want to have to wake up extra early the next morning just to make sure I'd be the first to arrive at the office. I knew there was a chance that he wouldn't even show up the next day, but I wasn't going to risk it. I didn't bother turning the lights on because I knew my way around and I was going to be quick in and out. It was when I reached my boss's office that I noticed something very strange. The office chair that was previously behind the desk had been moved and both the box and the passport were missing. I had only been gone for a few minutes, so it seemed plausible that whoever it was might still be inside the building with me, so I was quick to observe the rest of the office. Despite the intense moment of silence, I started to feel somewhat relieved to see the same old familiar office that I had grown accustomed to, and there was no other indication that anyone else was there. However, this moment of silence and relief was quickly diminished by a loud thud coming from the supply room.
Whoa.
It sounded like something very heavy hitting the floor. As I tried to figure out what could have caused such a loud noise, I suddenly heard the sound of what appeared to be a commotion coming from behind the door. After realizing that someone was in the supply room which required a key to open it, I began to assume that it was my boss or someone else with access to the office. But as I opened the door, I saw something that I will never forget and continues to haunt my darkest dreams.
Oh,
My
no.
knee-jerk reaction caused me to dash out of the office and immediately get to my car.
He's like, nope.
Just as I was about to turn on the ignition, I instinctively looked up and saw the dark silhouette of a man standing by the same window in the office. I couldn't see a face, but I knew I was being watched. I turned the key and my heart sank as the engine failed to start. I tried again repeatedly before looking up at the office
he missed his
again,
car up.
horrified to see that the dark figure had vanished.
Run, dude. Get out and run. Get out and run.
I gave the key one last turn, and to my relief the engine shuddered to a start. I drove off and headed to the nearest police station. When I arrived there, I told them everything. Thanks to the photo I had taken of the car that was parked outside, along with the partial description of the driver, the police were able to make an arrest, and the driver was identified. Shockingly, it turned out not to be my boss after all, but a relative of his with a violent criminal record. Apparently, my boss wanted to surprise his young girlfriend with a trip to Brazil by inviting her to his office and gifting her with a brand new passport he had arranged. But instead, she wanted to break the whole thing off, and in a fit of desperate rage, he killed her in cold blood and went into hiding. In an attempt to cover up his crime, he convinced his no-good brother to come by the office to collect the body and dispose of it. I will never forget that night, all the days I could smell her perfume as her lifeless body remained hidden behind the door while I went about my daily job. And the terrifying thought of being alone at night in the office with a violent criminal, I can only imagine what may have occurred had I not left the building or drove away soon enough. I consider myself very lucky.
He was a witness. He would have been murdered if that guy caught him. That's crazy. That was a crazy twist. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be like some ghost or something, or like some scary stalker that was going to try to chase him.
I never saw my boss again after that. In fact, no one did. He became a ghost. His last known location was somewhere in Rio, and that was it. A few weeks later, I quit my job and started working security at the sub-level of a local hospital. It kind of felt like a step back, and I had serious reservations about working so close to the morgue. But I didn't think anything could be worse than that creepy night at the office.
That was awesome. Good job. Good job. That was really good. Gave me some chills. That actually, if you saw my first, I think it was in creepy episode, Super Creepy Fridays #1, I believe, was the end of this video actually, where he talked about at the very end of this, working at a night shift at a morgue security. We saw that one. So this one was actually before that. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. That's awesome. I like the twist. It was good. I enjoyed these three. These were really good. So once again, we watched The Bridge by Llama Arts. We watched Secret Room by Wanzi Entertainment, and then this last one once again was Creepy Night at the Office by Animated Horror Flix. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm sorry it's a little bit shorter for anybody who does like the longer episodes. You know, the last one was like 30, the one before that one was like 25. But I decided to try a shorter one this time with only 3 films to see how it does. I'm still experimenting with these episodes, and I want to get it right for you guys. I want to get the right amount of films. I want to get the right timing so that everyone enjoys it, where it doesn't feel like it's too short or too long and dragged out. So let me know what you guys think about these. I hope you guys enjoyed them just as much as I did. They were creepy. I loved it. And I will see you guys in the next one.